A tale of two Buckeyes. You have the Ohio State Buckeyes that played Michigan. They were off. They were bad. They were. It was a head scratcher of how it could possibly happen. And then you have the Buckeyes that we saw against the University of Tennessee and to forever put shame upon the SEC after over 24 hours of whining and complaining about Indiana being in, about SMU being in, and how they got beat in their games because, oh my God, you have to put Alabama in because they're Alabama, even though they lost to just 6-6 teams. But anyway, so the question, and it's going to be the multi-million-dollar question if you want to include Vegas. Which Buckeye team do we see? Do we see the high-flying, high-pace, high-octane, just buzzsaw of an offense that nobody could even dream of stopping? Not even the great 85 Bears could slow that Buckeyes offense down. And then you have, or do we get the Ohio State team that wants to put on the boxing gloves and try to hit that big old haymaker while dropping your defense so you can get sucker punched by a team that has no business being there, and you end up falling? That is the $1,000,000 question, boys and girls. Now, the most accurate way, well, there isn't really an accurate way for this. It's just, it's just something to look at, I guess. So Ohio State, Oregon. We have seen this game once before. Came down to the very last second. If only Ryan Day had kept his eye on the clock. If only Will Howard had kept his eye on the clock. If somebody on that Ohio State staff would have kept their eye on the clock, we would probably be telling a little bit different of a tale. But that's not what happened. Oregon won at home in the friendly confines of Autzen Stadium, one of the most underrated stadiums in all of college football. But this time, it is in the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, which is never reliable, the last number of times we have seen Oregon in the Rose Bowl against Ohio State. It has gone not just wrong, but horribly wrong. And granted, new team, new year, many years ago, and yada, 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 yada. But the fact of the matter is, it is a trend to keep an eye on. It is 100% a trend to keep an eye on. Ohio State doesn't lose Rose Bowl games very often. And I'm trying to think back to the last time they lost a Rose Bowl, and by God, I cannot think of it off the top of my head either. Because Ohio State does good in those Rose Bowls. And so, let's take a look at let's take a look at that game, shall we? From earlier this year, Ohio State, Oregon. You have Ohio State jumping out to the early lead. Oregon with a 3-yard. Oregon responds with a touchdown. Only gets 6. Doesn't kick the PAT. I believe they tried going for 2, but I could be wrong on that. I'm just kind of looking at the score summary. And then Ohio State scores. They trade blows back and forth. 14-15, 21-15, 22-21, 28-22, 29-20. 31-29, and then last but not least, 31-32 Ducks to get us to that final score. And quite frankly, this isn't taking anything away from Oregon. Do not get me wrong. Ohio State lost that game far more than Oregon won that game. You have 2 turnovers. They put the ball on the ground twice. Oregon played a perfect game at home. This isn't at home. They're not going to play a perfect game again. At least, it's very unlikely odds. I mean, Dylan Gabriel, 23 of 34, 341 yards, 2 touchdowns. Will Howard, 28 of 35, 326, 2 touchdowns. They both played tremendous games, but here's the kicker. Quinshon Judkins, he's going to get more than 23 yards on the ground. He's going to get way more than that. Trayvon Henderson, if he repeats at 87 yards rushing, which I think he can beat that. I think he can beat that 87 number as well. The Buckeyes win. Jordan James, he's the one that had the day. 23 carries, 115 yards, a touchdown. For the Buckeyes, Jeremiah Smith, or I should say, Emeka Buka, 10 catches, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Jeremiah Smith, 101. I mean, they had a phenomenal day through the air. Now, and they had an okay day on the ground, but you have to consider that there is no way in God's green earth, in God's Rose Bowl, that Quinshon Judkins is going to get a mere 23 yards again. And Dylan Gabriel is going to have to replicate, if not improve, because yes, he may have played damn near a perfect game. 67% completion. In order to win this game, he's gonna have to be hitting 75 to 80%. That's what Will Howard hit in this first go around. Will Howard, he is a lot more confident than what he was at that time. He has had a lot more snaps in this offense. He's gotten to learn more of this offense. And granted, this was halfway through the season. This was game number 6. But again, every snap is an experience. It is another opportunity of learning. And they've had another 600 snaps. And the same goes for Dylan Gabriel, but Dylan Gabriel has latched onto this offense like we have never seen before in a first-year transfer. In a first-year transfer quarterback situation, you usually see a full year to get to where Dylan Gabriel's at. Look at Joe Burrow. He was average to above average year 1 at LSU, and then he goes to win the Heisman in year 2. Now, neither one of these guys are going to get a year 2 at Ohio State and Oregon. That's the unfortunate part. But both of these two have caught on. That they are with the program. And this game is essentially the national championship game. It is the play. It is, everything else is a formality. Ohio State, Oregon, in Pasadena will decide who the national championship is. Who the national champion is. Georgia's not going to win it. They're not even, I'm not so sure they're going to get by Notre Dame, because that is an ugly matchup that I will get into later. And then you have Boise, Arizona State, Texas with Quinn Ewers just continuing to decline. Yeah. Mm, yeah. I yeah, yeah. So this game is going to decide the national champion. These are the final two legitimate contenders. Oddly enough, none of them are from the SEC. Who would have thought? But again, that's a different discussion for a different day. So you have. So let's. I was still working on the history of the Rose Bowl, trying to figure out when the last time Ohio State lost the Rose Bowl, because I cannot think off the top of my head the last time they lost one. So, you got Ohio State beat Utah. Ohio State beat Washington. Ohio State beat Oregon in 2010, 26-17. That was the last time they met in their. I thought they met earlier. I thought they met later, or more recent than that. Anyway, 2010, and I believe Ohio State sort of took a long sabbatical. 1997, they beat Arizona State. Still looking. Oh, there it is. 1985 was the last time Ohio State lost the Rose Bowl, and that was to USC with absolutely nobody that I recognize. Okay, I was gonna see if there was something interesting there, but 1984 was the last time Ohio State lost in the Rose Bowl. That is an interesting streak in among itself. So you have a you have the let's see, that's 40 years. Holy cow. Since the last time the Buckeyes of Ohio State lost in the Rose Bowl. So every single trend that you look at, because Oregon, they didn't look good their last time out. I mean, Penn State, yeah, they're tough. Blah 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 blah. But Penn State hung around, and a good Oregon team with a Penn State team that has Drew Aller, Ty Warren, a good defense. Granted, tough to stop. Shouldn't have hung around like they did. It shouldn't have been, especially given James Franklin's ability to mess it up in the biggest games of his life. I mean, for goodness sake, one win against Ohio State in his career, and it was off of a fluke and a bad call, allegedly. But nonetheless, the like all trends point to Ohio State. And oh by golly, give me the Buckeyes to beat Oregon. Ryan Day gets the monkey off his back. Oh, yeah. And you have Ryan Day coaching for his job. And he knows it has got to be national championship or bust. Especially if you beat Oregon here, you have to win the national championship. No questions asked. Because on the other side of the bracket, after this last giant hurdle, it is green pastures. You got Texas. Come on now. Give me a break. Texas or Arizona State, which I don't think Arizona State's ever beaten Ohio State, because it's Arizona freaking State. And then you have Texas, who has a statue quarterback, and then with Ohio State having Jack Sawyer leading the charge to get home on a quarterback that doesn't move. Oh, Captain Jack is going to be salivating at that. Loving it. And then you have Georgia with Gunnar Stockton, which I do like Gunnar Stockton, but this offense, it is giving me nightmares. I have no faith in Mike Bobo. Why he is still the offensive coordinator is far beyond my comprehension. And it's going to get exposed in, I want to say the Mercedes Superdome, but it's like the Little Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. It is going to get exposed in the Sugar Bowl when Notre Dame beats Georgia. Yes, I am calling it. Yes, I am putting my faith into a team that hasn't won a meaningful game since 1988. I think Notre Dame beats Georgia. It is an ugly, ugly matchup for Georgia. Riley Leonard can run around with a ball. He is the best mobile quarterback Georgia has seen since Jalen Milroe. And the only reason why Georgia came back in that game is because Alabama let off the gas and just shocked the system and made the loss look respectable. Newsflash, Notre Dame's defense, they're a little bit better than Alabama's. And Riley Leonard, he's a better thrower of the ball than Jalen Milroe. Not quite the runner, but he's a good enough runner. And you look at every single team that Georgia has struggled against, outside of Jackson Dart, Georgia has struggled mightily against mobile quarterbacks, true dual threat quarterbacks. They struggle mightily. They even struggled against UMass. They had trouble stopping that. And now you're going to have the talent of Notre Dame out there with Riley Leonard and that defense. Sorry, Gunner. It was a fun run. It was a fun game and a half run. But it's over. It is over. And please, for the love of God, put Mike Bobo in unemployment. He has no business calling offensive plays. He has no business running an offense. He has single-handedly ruined Carson Beck. And if Carson Beck is able to go to a team when he moves on to the NFL after this year, if he is able to get to a team like a San Francisco, like the Los Angeles Rams, like a Miami Dolphins, if he is able to go to one of those teams that has a actual good offensive coach, he will be great. But with Mike Bobo calling the shots, a Georgia quarterback will not be successful. He will not have the sustained success needed to win a championship in this era of college football. And it is only going to get harder when the NIL really comes into full swing, especially in Big Ten country, the richest conference in the country. It is going to get ugly. Now, but with Notre Dame, you have a young, energetic coach. He's accomplished some great things so far. They have blown out everybody they have played. Their closest game was actually Indiana in the playoff game, where Indiana played awful. Indiana had a horrible game. and they still only lost by 10. Now, everybody was screaming and whining. Well, the SEC was screaming and whining about, oh my God, how can you let Indiana in? Alabama wouldn't have lost by that much. South Carolina wouldn't have lost by that much. Or Ole Miss wouldn't have lost by that much. Well, you know what? Maybe Ole Miss shouldn't lose to a 4-8 Kentucky. Maybe Alabama shouldn't lose to a 6-6 Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. And let me rephrase that, actually. They shouldn't have lost. They shouldn't have gotten blown out. They shouldn't have gotten mollywopped, boat raced, pantsed by a 6-6 Oklahoma Sooners. But it was enormous. They were 6-6. You take care of business. They're not in the bowl game where they got embarrassed by Navy. Alabama lost to a team that lost to a service academy. They don't get to use NIL. The Naval Academy doesn't get to use NIL. There is no real shot of an NFL future. You are going to go off to war and serve this great nation. And that crew of kids were able to go in and beat the blue blood of Oklahoma. But, SEC, SEC, SEC. Congratulations. You can spell SEC. Congratulations. Good job. But, where did this start anyway? I just kind of went. Anyway, Notre Dame vanquishes Georgia. I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to say 7 to 10 points. 6 to 10 points is going to be about the point spread. I would even go so far as to say 17-10 Notre Dame. 17-10 Irish. It's going to be a low-scoring affair. And then you have the great Arizona State Sun Devils with Scatterboo. I love saying the name Scatterboo. It's a fun word to say. Good old Scatterboo going up against the other big, mean, and bad Texas team in the mighty SEC, who doesn't have a win over a top 25 team, and by some SEC ex-posters do not deserve a playoff spot because they didn't get a win over a top 5 team. I did see that. I did see that on X, and that was really annoying. But, yeah. All kidding aside, this is a little bit different of a ball game. Scatterboo, he has got to be able to throw the ball, hit those targets, and shock the system. Get that Texas defense out of the box. Which is quite comical that the one side of the ball that Stark is not coaching is the feature of the team. That defense is dominant. But that offense with Quinn Ewers, that is a major, major issue. And that is why people are salivating at the possibility of an upset in... I don't even know where that bowl game's being played at. I think it's the Fiesta Bowl. Either way, people are salivating at the possibility that Arizona State vanquishes Texas and moves on. Play either the Buckeyes or the Ducks. Which, if that does happen, then it's going to be bad. It is going to be very, very bad for the Sun Devils. But they beat an SEC team. So, that's the moral victory there. Nonetheless, gosh. I want to say the Sun Devils so bad, but I got burned by Texas last time with Clemson. I'm gonna go Texas, but it's going to be a close game. I want this to be a close game so badly because it's because I think if you get enough pressure on Quinn Ewers, he cracks. Scattaboo, I don't think he does. I think Scattaboo, he rises to the occasion. Screw it. Give me the Sun Devils by 4. Sun Devils win by 4, and we'll say 28-24. 28-24. Sun Devils. On a corner route slightly overthrown by Quinn Ewers in the end zone as time expires. That's my prediction. That'll be a good game. I sure hope so. No, the next game will absolutely not be a good game. Penn State yeah. Thanks for coming, Boise. Been nice seeing you. Glad to see you back. Glad to see you finally get your shot at the playoff picture after several years of being national championship contenders. Congratulations, Boise. You completed your 25-year-long conquest to compete for a national championship. Too bad you don't get to that game. Penn State just rolls Boise. I'm going to say 35-10. I get James Franklin. He chokes in those big games. We touched on it earlier. He chokes a lot. But the matchup is just too much. It is too much. Penn State, so much better everywhere, except running back, of course. Gentry, you had a tremendous season. Any other year probably would be the Heisman, but Travis Hunter is just a absolute freak of nature, and I mean that in the most positive way. And you had a great season. Good luck in the NFL, bud, and enjoy your final game as a Boise State Bronco. Penn State wins. Big time. Big. Like, big. And then, okay, you know what? Because it is the Lord's Conference, as my good friend Gabriel would say, of Pure Sports Pulse. God's Conference, the Big Ten, and the SEC, Michigan, Alabama. How seriously is this game taken by Alabama? I mean, granted, Alabama doesn't have that old of a team. They have. I don't know how many starters are sitting, but there is enough there for Alabama that if they lose this game, you can no longer consider the SEC the dominant conference in college football. Oh, but we sent more players to the NFL. Okay. Okay. Nothing. Picks don't really matter after round 2. After that, you're basing it off luck. And then, well, we got the deepest teams. Yeah, of course you do. As you always do until until you realize that you're actually just 2 teams deep. You just have more crazies within your conference. You have more psychotic fan bases in your conference. It's like every Saturday down in the South, the warden to the asylum's like, all right, open up the doors, let him go. Wish that I was on a Rocky Top as they're running out of the asylum. So, yeah, and before we take off, I want to do some forecasting here, some 5-year forecastings, shall we? 5 years from now, you have a 12-team playoff that has been tweaked and adjusted throughout the half decade. So we'd be sitting at essentially 2030. And what will college football look like? Well, here's what college football is going to look like. You are going to have two dominant teams in the SEC, with a third not too far behind. That is Georgia and Texas, because they have the most money within the SEC. Texas A&M will be very close behind, and close enough to take a shot at the king and hit. And whichever one that king is, who knows? Alabama, Florida, they'll be around. Alabama, they'll be kind of upper mid-pack. Not quite close enough to take a swing at Texas or Georgia, but be able to take a swing at A&M. And then you have and then you go a little bit further down. You got the Floridas, Florida, Tennessee. And then you go a little bit more down. You got South Carolina, Kentucky. Yeah. But nobody is going to be able to take a swing at the Big Ten, because as I mentioned earlier, the Big Ten has the money. Michigan alone has multiple billion-dollar donors that nothing more than to see Michigan dominate like it was 1901 all over again. Multiple multi-billion-dollar people. You have the folks that run Oracle. You have Stephen Ross, who is the owner of the Miami Dolphins. You have Dave Portnoy. I mean, Michigan is now just opening up Pandora's box. That is NIL. Michigan is gonna be the top dog because they will have a payroll that will make the Yankees blush. Well, I guess the Mets now, since the Yankees wanted to cheap out on Juan Soto, but that's beside the point. Different video, different day. But yeah, and then you have Ohio State, who will do the grassroots effort, get $10 from this guy, $5 from this guy, and be able to raise one hell of a war chest. Because a couple million crazies giving $10 per crazy person, and you got yourself a nice little war chest. And then you have Penn State, that they're gonna be they're gonna be close enough to take a swing and maybe hit every once in a while, but they're not gonna accomplish anything. And then you have Oregon, who's got Big Daddy Knight, Phil Knight, who runs the sports world between him and Michael Jordan. Pumping money, getting that payroll running for the Ducks. So, and then Washington's going to be interesting. How many Seattle Tech tycoons want to see the Washington Huskies successful? And it is crazy that college football is coming to this. It is all about who can raise the most money, who's the best fundraiser, who can get the biggest war chest to get these kids. And people are saying, "Oh, the NIL it's bad, it's horrible. We didn't want this." It's not NIL that's the issue here. It is not. Now, it looks like an issue because the real issue is a real issue, but the transfer portal and this weird schedule that it has, that is the issue here. I think we had it right for a while, and then we went a little bit too far. If you have graduated academically from an institution, then you can transfer. Outside of that, you're there. You're there. It's over. If you want out so bad, hit the books, graduate, and then move on. And do your 2 years somewhere else. Do your 2 to 3 years somewhere else. And it's that is the biggest that's the biggest thing on college football right now is the Wild West transfer portal where you have guys transferring year to year. I mean, for goodness sake, JT Daniels, he transferred 4 times, I believe, because he went from somewhere. I don't remember where he came from. Then to Georgia, then to Rice, and then he went to an FCS school. But nonetheless, that's that's the reality of college football, and it has to be reined in, and it can be reined in. It can, but the NCAA has got to put up these guardrails on the transfer portal because it has gone completely insane. Those are just my those are so you're gonna see you're gonna see schools like in Alabama, like Auburn, pretty much be like a farming ground for Texas, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. Pretty much 95% of college football programs are going to be farming grounds for the Ohio States, for the Michigans, for the Texas, for the Georgias. And it is just simply going to be a year upon year 6 to 8 team tournament with the last 4 getting the nod of, hey, welcome, hey, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Yeah, this is what it looks like. There's the exit. See you later. Bam. So, and that's just the reality of it, of college football. This isn't bringing any parity with what's going on. With the NIL combined with the transfer portal, you're going to have Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Texas, essentially, and then Oregon, maybe USC, Texas A&M. You're going to have those guys, and then the rest of the rest of the nation is just farming, a farm system for the big dogs. And yes, like I said, it includes the Alabamas, it includes the Floridas, it includes the Florida States. They will be reduced to just pretty much the minor league teams, to the teams that have the money. So it's sad to see where college football is going. Hopefully, things get established to where it doesn't get to that point. But knowing the confidence within the NCAA, we're going to get to that point. And once we get to that point, there is no turning back. So, hopefully, they get the ball moving quickly. But I have my doubts. I am Patriot Dylan. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.